Sebastian sighed heavily as he trudged down the busy street. Today had been, without a doubt, the worst day of his life. It all started this morning when his boss called him into the office. "I'm sorry, Sebastian," Mr. Robinson said, not meeting his eyes. "We have to let you go. Budget cuts, you understand." Sebastian nodded numbly, gathering his belongings in a daze. As he left the building, his phone buzzed. It was a stock market alert. The company he had invested heavily in had just crashed. No, Sebastian muttered, quickly calculating his losses. Millions of dollars were gone in an instant. Lost in his thoughts, he didn't notice where he was walking until a horrible squelch made him look down. He had stepped right into a pile of dog poop. "Perfect," Sebastian grumbled, scraping his shoe on the curb. "Just perfect." After roughly cleaning the shoe, Sebastian headed to where he had parked his motorcycle. But as he approached, he noticed something was off. The back tire was completely flat. Upon closer inspection, he found a large nail embedded in the rubber. "You've got to be kidding me," he groaned, kicking the tire in frustration. As Sebastian pushed his motorcycle to the nearest repair shop, dark thoughts began to swirl in his mind. Why is the world so cruel? Why do bad things keep happening to me? He felt angry, hopeless, and most of all, alone. By the time Sebastian reached his small apartment, he was consumed by anger. He stormed into the kitchen, yanking open drawers until he found what he was looking for: a sharp fruit knife. "If the world wants to hurt me," he muttered, "maybe it's time I hurt it back." With the knife hidden in his jacket, Sebastian headed to the subway station. His plan was simple and terrifying. He would ride the train and lash out at random passengers. He didn't care about the consequences anymore. As Sebastian waited on the platform, a young woman standing nearby caught his eye. She was talking on her phone, laughing at something the person on the other end had said. Her happiness made Sebastian's anger flare even hotter. The train arrived and Sebastian boarded, his hand gripping the knife in his pocket. He scanned the car, looking for a target. The young woman from the platform sat down across from him, still on her phone. Just as Sebastian was about to stand up, his fingers tightening around the knife handle, something unexpected happened. An elderly man a few seats away suddenly clutched his chest, gasping for air. He slumped in his seat, clearly in distress. Without hesitation, the young woman Sebastian had been watching sprang into action. She rushed to the old man's side, her phone forgotten. "Sir, are you okay?" she asked, her voice calm but urgent. When the man couldn't respond, she turned to the other passengers. "Does anyone know CPR? I think he's having a heart attack." The car was silent for a moment. Then Sebastian found himself moving forward. I know CPR," he said, surprised at his own voice. Together, Sebastian and the young woman lowered the old man to the floor. Sebastian began chest compressions, while the woman tilted the man's head back to clear his airway. "Someone call for help," the woman shouted, and another passenger quickly dialed emergency services. For several tense minutes, Sebastian and the woman worked together, taking turns with compressions and rescue breaths. Paramedics were already on standby when the train arrived at the station. Paramedics rushed aboard, quickly taking over. As they worked to stabilize the old man, Sebastian and the young woman stepped back, both breathing heavily. "You did great," the woman said, smiling at Sebastian. "You might have just saved his life." Sebastian stared at her, then at his own hands, the same hands that had been gripping a knife just minutes ago, now used to help save a life. As the paramedics carried the old man off the train, the young woman turned to Sebastian again. "I'm Sarah, by the way," she said, extending her hand. "Sebastian," he replied, shaking it. I'm glad I could help." Sarah's smile widened. "You know, there's a cafe just up the street. Would you like to grab a coffee? After all that excitement, I could use a breather." Sebastian hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "Yeah, I'd like that." As they left the station together, Sebastian discreetly dropped the fruit knife into a trash can. The weight that lifted from his shoulders was more than just the physical absence of the knife. Over coffee, Sebastian found himself opening up to Sarah about his terrible day. To his surprise, she listened with genuine sympathy and understanding. "Wow, you've really been through it," she said when he finished. "But you know what? Despite all that, When someone needed help, you stepped up. That says a lot about who you are, Sebastian. Her words struck a chord in Sebastian. He realized that even on his worst day, he was still capable of doing good, of making a difference. As they parted ways, Sarah gave Sebastian her number. If you ever need someone to talk to, she said, don't hesitate to call. Walking home, Sebastian felt different. The world hadn't changed. He was still jobless, still in financial trouble, but his perspective had shifted. He had been shown kindness by a stranger, and in turn, he had helped save a life. Sebastian realized that even in the darkest moments, there was always the potential for light. All it took was one act of kindness, one moment of human connection, to remind us of the good in the world and in ourselves. He also felt ashamed of his actions that nearly led to a grave mistake. Fortunately, nothing foolish had occurred, otherwise his entire life would have been ruined. As he reached his apartment, Sebastian made a decision. Tomorrow he would start fresh. He would look for a new job, seek advice on his finances, and most importantly, he would strive to be the kind of person who helps others, just as Sarah had helped him. Sebastian went to bed that night with a small smile on his face. For the first time in a long while, he felt hopeful about the future. 单字 trudge 游指在崎岖的路上或斜中务实，步履艰难地走，费力地走。Verb to walk slowly with a lot of effort, especially over a difficult surface or while carrying something heavy. Numbly 由于过度震惊或恐惧而麻木的。Adverb in a way that shows no emotion because someone is very shocked, sad, frightened, etc. In a daze 恍惚的 unable to think clearly. Buzz 发嗡嗡声 Verb to make a continuous, low sound such as the one a bee makes. Mutter 嘟囔 咕哝 Verb to speak quietly and in a low voice that is not easy to hear, often when you are worried or complaining about something. Squelch 如走在湿软土地上似的，发吧唧声，发扑哧声。Noun a sucking sound like the one produced when you are walking on soft, wet ground. Grumble 发牢骚，抱怨。Verb to complain about someone or something in an annoyed way. Rubber 橡胶。Noun an elastic substance equals that stretches, made either from the juice of particular tropical trees or artificially. Swirl 使旋转，使打转。Verb to move quickly with a twisting, circular movement, or to make something do this. Yank 猛拉 Verb to pull something forcefully with a quick movement. Flare 暴力，疼痛或愤怒，爆发，突发，加剧。Verb when something bad such as violence, pain, or anger flares up, it suddenly starts or gets much worse. Clutch 通常只因恐惧、焦虑或痛苦而紧抓。Verb to take or try to take hold of something tightly, usually in fear, worry, or pain. Airway 肺的，气道。Noun the passage through the mouth and throat that carries air to the lungs. Paramedic 非医生或护士的，护理人员，医务辅助人员。Noun a person who is trained to do medical work, especially in an emergency, but who is not a doctor or nurse. Discreetly 审慎地，谨慎地。Adverb in a way that is careful not to cause embarrassment or attract too much attention, especially by keeping something secret.